keeps on leaving and we keep on moving. When do we pass on our wisdom to the youth? My veteran story, lost arts discussions, fireside chats with a bourbon or two. It's time to hear the stories by our military veterans. Get yourself ready, it's the Lost Arts Podcast. The Lost Arts with Andrew Cox.
About 15 minutes later, he says, "Are you done yet? I got 4 more pages. 8.5 living, teletype paper. I got 4 more pages of this." I said, "I'm going as fast as I can, God damn it." I said, "Why don't you review what I've done already, just to make sure?" So I'm going. Not 10 minutes go by. He comes up and says, "You got to get that done now." I said, "You do it. You're a linguist. You do it. I'm out of here." So on the name, you can actually call a cab. So I called the cab, went back to the barracks. I give it maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Connors comes flying in with 2 APs.
Uh-oh.
Now, the APs can't be told what's going on.
Yeah.
So the one AP says, "It's Dunlap." He says, "Get up." I get up. And he says, "This is your boss, right?" And I said, "Yes, sir. He is my boss." He says, "Well, he says you just walked off the job. This is like dereliction of duty stuff, and you're in a war zone."
Oh, man.
I said, well, I said, "John, I'm not talking to him. I'll talk to you. You tell this asshole I will do my job as quickly and to the best of my ability, as long as he stays off my ass. And if he bothers me one more time, he can do the goddamn thing himself." So the MP, he doesn't know what this could be over a flashlight. It could be over anything, He doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
He just looks at the counter and says, "Well, Sergeant, what do you think we ought to do?" And he says, "You better go back to work." Well, it did. Anyways, that incident worked out great. I even got an accolade for it. You know what I mean? For getting it out in a timely manner and all that stuff. But now he hates my guts.
Uh-huh.
I want nothing to do with it. I want nothing to do with it. In June, I get a pile of orders on my desk. And I look at them. I say, "Holy shit, this can't be true. Cannot be true." For a Chinese linguist, the dream assignment is the Shulinko Air Station, Taipei, Taiwan.
Okay.
You speak the language. By that time, you're making good pay. You get the waiting list is 20 miles long.
Yeah.
I mean, we had our own golf pro, free lessons. I mean, 3 chow halls open 24 hours a day, 1 American, 1 Chinese, and 1 short order. Just walk in. You know what I mean? 24 hours a day.
Wow.
I looked at these and I said, "Sire, did you see these?" He says, "That's the most unfair thing I've ever seen. I've been waiting 10 years to go to Taiwan." So Big Bird comes. I get on it. Now I got 24 hours to report to base, right? I see that plane banking over Taiwan. I see those city lights, and I said, "Yeah, right, 24 hours." Because when I cashed out at Da Nang, I mean, all that hazard duty pay and it's all tax free, and I just left it in there. There's no place to spend it. I had I think I had like $3,700 in cash. And today, that would be like $30,000,
Yeah.
So, and so when I get to the airport, when I get to Taipei, and I'm walking out of the front of the airport, and the guy comes up, "Where you want to go, Joe?" I said, "The best bar in town." American bar, Chinese bar. American bar. Okay. You drop me off. Well, between that and the hotels I stayed at, it was 3 days later before I decided to go back.
Oh no.
And we're coming up to another haircut story.
Oh, all right. Very nice.
So cab pulls up in front of the station, the guard station, and it's my orders, AP. And he goes, Dunlap. He says, we've been looking for a man named Dunlap. He says, why don't you just stand right here? Okay. So they bring the top out. We didn't really have a top sergeant, but we called him top.
Yeah.
Just senior enlisted man on the base. They wake him up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He ain't happy.
Yeah.
He says, well, nice of you to join us. He says, well, he says, I know where you're coming from. He says, I'm going to cut you some slack. He says, but I guarantee you, before you leave this post, you will remember me. All right. Okay. So great duty. Just it was paradise.
Yeah.
And now it's coming time where I got to think about re-upping or what I'm going to do. But now I'm engaged. Right
Okay.
back to high school sweetheart. We finally got, after all those years, we got back together.
Okay.
And I'm engaged. And geez, I don't know. I haven't talked to her about it. And I don't know if she went. Anyways, so I went and I made 4 demands. I said, okay, yeah, I'll re-up. I said, I want guaranteed 5 level. You're supposed, do you know what a 5 level is? That every service has their own. You got 3 level, you got 3 level, 5 level. It's like a GS number. And you're supposed to test for it. In the Air Force, you're supposed to test to get your 5 level, but they waive the test if you're in a combat zone. So I said, okay, so I want the 5 level test waived. I want guaranteed promotion to staff. And I said, I want guaranteed reassignment to intermediate language school in Monterey. So a couple of days come back, go by, and he tells me, Brad, I got you everything except guaranteed staff. He says, you'll probably have to wait a few months for that. Well, okay. And so I decided I'm going home.
Okay.
And then their way of saying thank you, because I took that assignment into Vietnam, we're going to send you home for Christmas. So I wasn't supposed to get out until April, right? They let me out so I could make it home for Christmas again.
Oh, that was nice of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm walking down one of the streets. I got 1 day to go, and I got my arms around 2 guys because I've been drinking a few beers, and I'm going home the next day. And guess who I run into? Top. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. Sorry, somebody was walking by. I'm sitting outside, so I was telling him something. My bad. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'm walking down one of the little streetways, and guess who's? And I'm drunk. I got 2 guys hanging me up. I'm off duty. I got nothing to worry about. I'm going home tomorrow. And Top walks up and he says, Mr. Dunlap, you're going home tomorrow. I said, yeah, I am, Top. He said, going to be home for Christmas and New Year's and all that. And I said, yes, I am, Top. He says, guess what I got right here in my tuna? And what's that, Top? He says, I got your boarding pass. He says,
no.
And before I give you to this, Mr. Dunlap, I don't like your haircut. I didn't get a buzz cut, but I met him halfway. I let him know, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, we finished that round. So got in that bird and came home, and I had sent my fiance at that time a ticket so she could meet me in Chicago. So we could meet, just the 2 of us together rather than having all the people at the airport and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Okay, so it's 13 hours on the plane, and then I landed in LAX and it was no SeaTac. I landed in SeaTac, and so and then anyways, by the time I got to O'Hare, I was pretty ripe.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm losing my tie and did my jacket. I'm now when my feet hit the ground in Rochester, I'm a free man. But as long as I fly in uniform, so but I'm hours away from freedom, right?
Yeah.
So I'm waiting at the gate at the window where a plane's coming in. You could do that then. You could go right to the window,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
And the second lieutenant, no, the captain, dentist walks up to me. Air Force.
Okay.
And he says to me, Sergeant. I said, yes, sir. He says, you got to be the poorest excuse for an airman I've ever seen. Houston, we got a problem. So I knew enough not to put my hands on him. Okay. But
Yeah.
I got my chest to his. I kept backing him up right to the window. I said, would you care to repeat that? I said, oh, I see you got the National Defense Ribbon. They give you that for waking up on time 3 days in a row. I said, let me give you a little advice, sir. Before you go overseas or before you see anything that looks like trouble, pick your battles carefully. And I gave him a real good chest bump. Now, people are watching us. I'm keeping my voice down, but people are watching us.
Yeah.
Well, he couldn't have that. No, that was no good. So he went. So I don't move. He goes and he gets Air Force security.
Okay.
I said, what the hell do I got to do to get out of here? Anyways, two guys come up. One stands next to the captain. The other one says, can I talk to you for a minute? And I said, sure. He says, what'd you do to him? He says, you threatened him. I didn't threaten him. I gave him a little advice on how to stay alive. So he looks at me and he goes over and talks to his buddy and he talks to the captain. And they just walked the captain away.
Oh, wow.
Just walked him away. And that was it. Then 10 minutes later, the old lady showed up, and then I was home. I put my feet on the ground, and that was the end of my military experience until I decided to join the reserves.
Okay. And then how long was it like in between? So you get out then, and then
okay. So I got out in December of '68.
Uh-huh.
Officially out. So this is really strange because I cannot get these records. The 98th Division headquarters were in Rochester, New York. Okay. And a friend of mine was in the 98th, and he says I had my own business, my own advertising agency at the time. And I'll give you the year in a second. And he knew I was a writer, and he said the 98th was looking for a staff writer. So, well, that sounds pretty good. What's the pay? And the pay wasn't that great or anything, but said they got a dark room. Oh yeah, okay, I'll do that. So I joined, and I would have to say that would be 82.
Okay.
Now the only record they have of the whole time that I was in the 98 is the time that I went to Fort Bend for journalism training. That was active duty. Okay.
Okay.
That's the only record they have. They don't have my pay records. They don't have anything.
What? That's not good. Holy cow.
It doesn't really make any difference at the end, but that's the only reason I can show anybody. Yeah, look, I really was.
Yeah. Wow. So what did you do? You say you were a writer or staff writer. What exactly were you doing?
Photojournalist.
Oh, photojournals. Okay.
And I subsequently became editor of their quarterly newspaper called The Pipeline. I became editor of that. It was just a fun job. Take pictures, write stories. Got to interview a couple of generals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. And then at this point, you were married, going through that?
Let's see. Well, I got married in 69, June of 69, stayed married a couple of years. And so at the time that I was in the reserves, I was single. But that's the one thing I really wanted to talk about is collateral damage, man.
Yeah.
We're finally starting to get some real acknowledgement of what PTSD really is. They're still trying to define it. And that's great. And I've got 40% now, and I'll have my 100% before very long. We're working on that now, and it's just because it was mishandled the first time. But I don't think the real story is told about what it does to loved ones, children, family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I got out and actually married, I mean, my high school sweetheart, the love of my life, I had no idea that I had PTSD. We didn't have a name for it. There was no such thing as PTSD. Shell shock or battle fatigue. Those are the only two psychological aspects that they recognized, right? Shell shock and battle. There was no PTSD. But I knew one thing. I lived for speed. Within the first 3 years of my marriage, I went through 2 Mustangs, a goat, and a Jaguar.
Oh, wow.
To this day, nobody can walk within 2 feet behind me. I mean, I'm on alert.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Actually, loud noises, anything like that. I didn't know what this was.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically, I'm not going to use it as an excuse. I'm just saying, of course, the old lady wondered what the hell happened to me. We could all blame it on the war, but what? Everybody go, war changes people. What's your problem?
Right.
Not that she ever did anything like that, but I wasn't the same guy, and she didn't have a shot. Now I wanted speed, I wanted adventure, I was an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah,
and she could live like that. No way she could live like that. And I take a look. I take a look at PTSD, and I've studied this, Andrew. It's everybody suffers grief, right?
Mm-hmm.
Grief is a price we pay for love, right? That's what we pay.
Right.
You love somebody, grief. I'm not talking now. PTSD has gotten to the point where an old lady who gets her cat run over can suffer from PTSD. That's not PTSD. That's grief, right? Everybody goes through it. So then that gets really, really messed up in there. What is PTSD? Well, I can tell you, I know it when I see it, and I see it in the most cases are combat or sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know women that have been basically totally, and that's not grief that they're going through. That's a real deal. I've seen their war face. You know what I mean? And who pays for that?
Well, it does depend.
Who pays for that? I mean, I can actually get some compensation. I'll get more. What do these people get? Their lives were destroyed from either combat, or whatever, or this intense. And of course, that gets worse the more porn there is on the net. No, that gets worse and worse and worse. I can't believe the number of people that I've talked to that have experienced sexual abuse.
Yeah.
That's the real deal. That's real PTSD.
Yeah, and it tends to keep rising as well. Like you were saying, there's the porn on the internet, super easy to get to, that type of stuff, which enhances sexual predators and those types of things. So,
well, there's one thing that I'm not taking this stuff in order because I want to talk a little bit about who I think are the real patriots, the real warriors, are the men and women in the military that refuse to take the jab.
Yeah.
They sacrificed their careers. And some had career aspirations, right? And refused. Yeah. And now that we find out of all the consequences, side effects, long-term COVID, short-term COVID, all this other stuff, they risked it. I mean, they'd raised their hand. They were the warrior. They were the patriot. And they said, no, you're not doing this to me. And I just wish more had, because it's going to be years before you find out everything that has to do with that, the COVID.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
And
there was a lot of individuals that were forced out during that time. I know that they did go back and say that they could come back in, but they wouldn't have the same or what was it? They would have the same rank, but they couldn't compensate them. Yeah, rate. Yeah, but they wouldn't compensate them for the time that they were out.
Why would you want to? If you were, I don't care, officer, why would you want to go back in having that on your record? Your career is shot anyway. You're not going any further, probably. You're already looked at as some kind of resistor or conspiracy theorist, Yeah, I wouldn't know. Let me ask you, man, just take a look at present day situation. How many wars are we involved in right now?
Oh, how many? Officially or unofficially?
I don't know. Take a guess.
Technically speaking, we are not involved in any wars currently. But we do support different regimes, different countries, and things of that nature, which, they are, what is it, war by proxy?
Yep. Yeah. Do you think we have any ground troops in the Ukraine?
That I don't know. Probably, but I don't know that.
Yeah, me too. I bet we got advisors,
Yeah.
And then what's going on in Israel right now, and I just cannot believe, I'm not to get political, I cannot believe that Biden denied those 2,000-pound bombs that they wanted. And I can't believe that Schumer went and said that Netanyahu ought to resign. You don't tell another country how to run a war, especially since we haven't won one. When's the last time we won a war? World War II, right?
True. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I take a look. These are things that now we're getting the juices flowing, Andrew.
Yeah.
So this could go anywhere.
Let it go. It's all right.
Let me ask you this question. Under this regime, would you advise a son, daughter, family member, loved one, friend to join the military?
I think I would say yes, but the only reason is because I know that things are going to change. Like it's going to go back and forth at some point in time. So it won't stay, far left, and it's not going to stay far right. At some point in time, the pendulum's going to swing. So now, does it the most pleasant of experiences right now in the military? Maybe not, but it will change. It'll move back the other way eventually.
And when I take a look, I take a look at my family's history. The first record we have is a male on my mother's side was a surgeon in the Second World War. I'm the Second World War. in the Civil War. He was for the North, and he kept a journal. Very, very interesting. And my grandmother gave it to me which is amazing because my grandmother enlisted in the WAC. And I forget how old she was then, but she enlisted, and she was a mother at that time, but she enlisted, and her brother. No, we got to come back to her in a minute. Her brother, my great uncle Milt, was one of the oldest men to enlist in the Marines in World War II.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. How old was he?
44, I think.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if he had to get a sign or waiver or whatever, but it was locally that was made a pretty big deal. But going back to my grandmother, she enlisted, and she was a switchboard operator outside of London.
Okay.
Charlie Schultz, the creator of Peanuts, was on the same base.
Okay.
Charlie Schultz's job, he was a mail censor.
Okay.
So he looked at all the mail. Well, my grandmother would whenever she sent a letter home, would include a picture of a puppy, a handwritten picture of a puppy.
Right.
One day, Charles Schultz comes in and asks my grandmother if he could borrow that puppy as a sketch, because he always wanted to be a cartoonist. He wasn't even a cartoonist yet.
Really?
My grandmother said sure, and I got this letter. I was gonna maybe another time. So Charles Schultz gave her a letter thanking her for letting him use.
Wow.
That was the birth of Snoopy.
That is wild.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool though. And that was just her just doodling on a paper or whatever when she sent letters home.
yeah.
That's
like
really
her little signature. She would draw a puppy at the end.
Yeah. That's super cool. And
So,
man, big time,
so
you know?
I take a look. Those are my elders. Then I'm just giving you some bona fides here. And my father, World War II, went through North Africa, Italy, France, and Germany.
Wow.
Two of my uncles, both during Korea War. My brother, Vietnam combat vet. It was Agent Orange that killed him. He was on a truck, and a transport, and the truck got hit, and they had Agent on there, and just sprayed him, and affected his lungs. And my brother-in-law, Agent Orange. His child, who just died of fentanyl poisoning, was never quite right from the day he was born, and they figure that may be genetic Agent Orange related.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody in every generation in my family has raised their hand. You know?
Yeah.
And we're proud of it. But I could not, in good conscience, right now, recommend that anybody go in. I guess I just couldn't do it. I'll wait till the pendulum comes back a little more. Now go.
Yeah.
Now go.
Now's your chance. Do it. Yeah. Yeah. I will say that it is different now in the military. There are things that like it's just changing. And I'm sure it has been this way since the beginning of our country, but things always change. And really the military is a reflection of society, you know, and that's just the way it is. So
I just don't know how I made it through 4 years active and 6 years reserve without ever having to go to a drag show. I just don't know how the hell they do that. I'm sure the Russians and the Chinese, and I see some. They're pretty tough troops. I'm pretty sure they're taking classes in that too, on equilibrium or whatever they call it today. That's the stuff that scares the hell out of me. Okay, buddy. One thing I really want to do is, I was thinking about this yesterday, is I want to thank you for giving me this platform.
absolutely. Yeah.
I was thinking about it last night. I said, imagine we get up to 2 hours, right, of uninterrupted, no commercials, airtime, internationally. What do you think? What do you think Biden or Trump would pay for this?
They might pay a little bit for it. I don't know.
Problem is, you probably wouldn't see any of the money.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Well, I'm really glad you contacted me because this is where this is all is leading. I wanted to talk about PTSD a little bit, and I wanted to talk about collateral damage a little bit. But the one thing that really gets me, Andrew, is today I just checked the figures. The figure now is 22 veterans are committing suicide every day.
Yeah.
I think it's more than that, but that's the official number. That's about one an hour, right?
Yeah,
so we've been doing this, huh?
I said it's just about one an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, just about one an hour. That's every hour. And I want to address not only our brothers and sisters in arms. I want anybody that listens to this. First of all, if you're thinking about this, if you're thinking about taking your own life, we've all heard it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, right?
Right.
Number two, that number 22 does not include the collateral damage. How many wives and lovers and husbands and children hurt themselves or somebody else because of the experience, because of PTSD?
Right. Yeah.
It's not infectious, but the manifestations are, and nobody thinks about them. 6 years ago, I was blind. I had C. diff. I couldn't stop crapping no matter what I did. The medicine that they were giving me was not doing anything. Though they actually had to condemn my apartment when I left it. I mean, that's how bad it was.
Oh, wow.
I was going to be discharged from the hospital. No, I was discharged from the hospital. And I went home. I said, this is it. I can't take this anymore. I'm sitting in my own shit 24/7. I can't see. I didn't know I had glaucoma. We found that out later.
Yeah.
In intense pain because I couldn't get the right medication. And I called out and I couldn't find any help. So I did. I got a paring knife. I sat in my chair, and I tried 3 times. But I was so dehydrated from shitting for 3 days I couldn't get the knife in. And Andrew, I've got to tell you, I tried. I did everything I could. I did. I had a thick sweatshirt on. I could just go through his sweatshirt. And I'm going, Jesus Christ, I can't even kill myself.
Wow.
Well, my sister, thank God, took me under the wing. And together, we finally got to the point where to get rid of the C. diff, you know what they had to give me?
No,
a fecal transplant. You know what a fecal transplant is?
I do not.
Well, they finally they reduced it to, well, they inject it, but they're taking somebody's good shit and putting it in you, and your body adjusts to the good shit, and you finally get rid of the C. diff.
No kidding. Wow.
Hell yeah. If you got good shit, you can make $13,000 a year by being a donator. I'm serious. So,
I've never heard of that.
So the last time I was in the hospital, and this way you don't know who to trust. I'm in the hospital, and they said, no, this is not C. diff this time. You had C. diff. We gave you the medicine. I said, I'm not leaving this hospital until you take a stool sample. They took a stool sample, scheduled the operation for the next day. You gotta be in charge of your own healthcare.
That is true.
Yeah. The doctor told me I couldn't have C. diff because it didn't smell right. There's a valid medical opinion, right? So it took from the time that I did everything I could. Number one, if anybody out there is listening to this or watching this and is considering suicide, do not let anybody tell you that's the coward's way out. Anybody who tells you that has not been there. Oh, what? You're a coward because you're in so much pain you can't take it anymore, and you decide to end your life. Now you're in that miserable state, and somebody comes up and calls you a coward. They don't know what they're talking about. Plug it in right away. Number two, I don't care what. Hey, you're a warrior. You're a patriot. You raised your hand once. Ready and willing to risk your life. Raise your hand right now and stick around. I don't pick a reason. I don't care what your reason is. Pick a reason to see your daughter one more time. Make a phone call you never met. I don't care what your reason is. You hang on and you keep calling. You might not get the first. I'll tell you what. I had a girl on the suicide hotline, the 1-888 number. You've seen the number, right? You can find it anywhere. And she must have been an empath. I mean, she didn't. I mean, it was like unconditional love. And she really did guide me. She didn't solve the problem, but she guided me in the right direction where I ultimately found the problem. Okay. So I don't care who you got to reach out to. Next door neighbor, call the VFW. I mean, you probably won't get much help, but you don't know where the help's going to come from. Call the veteran, call anybody. But damn it, you raise your arm and you hang on and just fight for the next thing. Just one thing, one little thing. Pick one.
Yeah, very true.
I'll get off my soapbox in a minute. But and then once again, just I
said, that's all right. Keep going. You're fine.
All right. Well, I'm not going to go there. Hang on. That's all I'm going to tell you. Hang on. Live for another day. Hey, you can always change your mind and do it tomorrow. So you take a day off. Take a break.
Yep. That's a good point too. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Andrew, I probably got more, but I just thank you for giving me this shot. It's been a lot of fun. You're a great guy. God bless.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Brad. And I love hearing your story. I'm glad we're able to actually get a good recording this time and be able to do it properly now that I've got things figured out. But yeah, and thanks for one, talking about suicide, those types of things. It's very, very important to me, and unfortunately, we've all known individuals that have done that or tried, and especially in the veteran community, and 22 a day is way too many. So whatever we can do to decrease that number will be a positive move. So, but thanks for bringing it and telling it from the heart. That's awesome.
Take care, man. I love you.
To all the listeners out there, if you're struggling, you need help, don't forget the VA does have those resources. You can dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net, click on that chat icon. Any of those options are going to be able to put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. Brad cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. All right. With that, Brad, one last time, thank you. I appreciate it. To all the listeners out there, stay motivated, change your socks.